What I love about wetlands is when you see the kids get done with a hike or a field trip out to the marsh, seeing the kids' faces when they come back about all the neat things, the dragonflies or the butterflies or the birds that they've seen. Wetlands are easy to fall in love with.
So, huge fan of wetlands.
Well, wetlands are cool. They're mysterious, they're teeming with life.
I love wetlands because each one is so different and unique.
I love the way they feel and smell.
They're also a great place to recreate.
This is what I like to do, and I like to come here and just see it.
The great thing about working in Wisconsin with wetlands is the wonderful diversity of different wetland types we have.
We have wetlands that have trees in them, wetlands that have lots of shrubs in them, wetlands that might look more like a prairie.
If you're tired of one type of wetland, just drive a few miles and you'll find some others.
Wetlands are that unique place on the landscape between the places that are always dry and the places that are always wet.
The most important things wetlands do is help regulate the quantity and quality of water that moves across the landscape.
Wetlands are really good at capturing runoff water, whether it's stormwater, whether it's snowmelt, keeping the waters from entering our neighborhoods, covering our roads.
Second, it provides really important area for improving water quality, for removing sediments before they reach our lakes, rivers, and streams.
We're very fortunate here in Door County to have a very large complex of intact wetlands that help buffer some of those impacts that we see from humans into Lake Michigan.
Incredibly important is wildlife habitat. 75% of the state's wildlife use wetlands for some portion of their life cycle.
They're full of life, animals, critters, and I'm going to swat a mosquito because it's going to penetrate my...
I remember one guy said to me, you know, why did God make mosquitoes? And I said, well, that was the first effort to preserve wetlands.
Wisconsin historically was a very wetland-rich state. We estimate there were over 10 million acres of wetlands in Wisconsin.
But it's really important to remember that we've lost half of the wetlands that we once had on our landscape to various kinds of land use changes, agriculture, urban development, roads. And we need those things, but we also need wetlands.
People say that you have to choose between economic prosperity and wetland protection and restoration. That's just simply isn't true.
We see a lot of examples of really successful projects where economic development and wetlands can coexist.
We're utilizing nature as a way to help with our water management, and it's just a win-win for everybody.
And one of the key tenets of how we approach our work is really to try to make ourselves useful. So understanding what a community's needs or priorities are, and coming in and providing training or technical support to help them integrate the wetland piece to what they do in a way that advances their goals.
They really do a great job of working with citizens of the state, with practitioners, with scientists, with legislators.
When legislators have something that directly impacts them or their constituents, they've got water quality issues, flooding issues. Across the political spectrum, there's really a recognition of how important wetlands are in our communities.
We really emphasize that the most important way for people and communities to protect wetlands is getting them to love the wetlands, getting them out, seeing it, smelling it, feeling it, all the things that wetlands provide.
I love the way they look. I love all of the different flowering forbs.
When they love the wetlands, they will care for the wetlands and they will help promote it into their communities.
We feel a groundswell of excitement for the work that we want to do.
It takes collaboration, it takes trust, it's kind of long-haul work.
And it makes me so excited and hopeful to meet with people all around the state of Wisconsin who also love wetlands and care about them.
I am more excited about the future of wetlands in Wisconsin now than I've ever been.
It gives me hope for the future that we really can protect and restore Wisconsin's wetlands.
I'm fifth generation farmer. We've all got the same name, which is interesting. It gives you some real roots when there's been 5 people before you with the same name doing the same thing on the same land. It goes back to that old adage of it isn't really our land, we just are taking care of it for the next generation. I've had 4 generations do that for me, and I want to do a good job for our generations. You know, producing food is a wonderful, noble profession. I love it. And what we say, we're helping people, helping the world, we're feeding the world. We're feeding the world, but man, the environment has become more and more important to me. As soon as you poke a hole in the earth and drill a hole, you have a chance for contamination no matter what you're doing. Every plant that you see out there, if it's green, it's using nitrogen to some extent. It's a huge part of what we do, and we do need it. The thing is where do we get it? How do we put it on? How much do we put on? Those kinds of things. If you think you need 100 pounds, you might want to put 120 on just in case there's any leaching. Well, my gosh, leaching is exactly what the problem is, but back then nitrogen was cheap, yield was everything. We didn't know about nitrates in the soil, or in the water, or didn't care, or didn't think they got there, wasn't paying attention. But over time, it has become more important. And so what we want to do as farmers is we want to filter the stuff that we have. We want to make sure it doesn't get down into our water. And so when we don't do it right and it gets away, then it just keeps heading down, 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 down. Sooner or later it makes it to the groundwater and doesn't hurt much there, but when you pump it up and drink it, it does, obviously. So if you get too much nitrates, it's just not good.
Especially in a crop like potatoes, if we've got nitrogen on and 3 days later we get a 2-inch rain event, some of that nitrogen's gone. There's not much question about that. So it's kind of a put and take system. You have to put in everything you need. The plant takes what it wants, and anything that doesn't get taken up by the plant eventually ends up in the groundwater. We're basically spoon feeding all of our nutrients, trying to put on as target when the plant needs it, put on exactly what they need, looking at the forecast so that we're not putting it on before there's going to be an inch or 2 rain event. But you know, the reality is there are some days where nitrogen has to go on at some point, or the crop's going to die, and if the crop dies or gets so stressed that it's going to have quality issues or yield issues, and you aren't going to be able to make money. So it's constant, daily having to make those choices, and some days there aren't good choices. Typically all of us live on the farm, we drink the water, we eat the food off our farm. None of us are intentionally doing anything harmful to the environment. We're just trying to do as well as we can. Obviously somebody would say, well, why don't we just make them use less nitrogen? Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to reduce leaching. That's obviously the easiest solution. But again, it's all timing. It's not the total amount of nitrogen I use, it's when we put it on and when it rains, that sort of thing. And so just lopping off 10 or 20% doesn't mean you're going to automatically get 10 or 20% less leaching. You might not get any less leaching. And that's one of the real challenges with the problem.
Let's do this properly, and then let's work together to get it fixed. We're all drinking the water, that's for sure. And it's about testing, it's about education, and it's probably going to cost some money. Clean environments cost more than dirty environments. That's why there's dirty environments. In the end, it's about the dollar sometimes, isn't it?
The waters of Wisconsin belong to us, the people of Wisconsin. The state holds them in trust solely for our benefit. Underlying every action of the legislature and the DNR is the fundamental fact that they act not as owners, but as trustees for the true owners, we the people. I am proud of the work that MEA has done over the last 20 years. There was a big hole that needed to be filled when the public intervenor was abolished. And MEA has done that beautifully.
One of the foundations of Midwest Environmental Advocates is to empower people who haven't participated before.
The attorneys at MEA are changing the course of history, really, in Wisconsin.
They work with us. They don't work on behalf of us, they work with us. MEA stood by and took action on our behalf, and that's, for me, the most important thing. Win or lose, we were better off because of our relationship with MEA.
Whenever something new happens, MEA is kind of ready to jump back in and help us out.
MEA really cares. MEA makes us feel like they're passionate about what we're doing, part of the team. MEA isn't just a resource, but they become teammates in the fight.
The heart and soul of MEA, in part, is that we're part of the multi-generational legacy of Wisconsin's conservation history. And Wisconsin has a long, long history of citizens stepping up to protect our air, land, and water, you know, for over 100 years.
And if you stand for something, but you don't take action, then you have to ask yourself, do you really stand for something?